Hey everyone, and welcome back to a new video series brought to you by Rockford Fosgate and RTTI, the Rockford Technical Training Institute. In this video series, we're going to walk you through step-by-step installation of our new audio kits developed for the Yamaha YXZ side-by-side vehicle. So stay tuned, we've got a lot of good information for you. See you in a second. All right guys, welcome back. I'm now joined by Brad with our new product development team, and he's going to walk us through the steps of this installation. So Brad, what are we going to be installing in the vehicle today?
Today, we're going to be installing our Yamaha YXZ-STAGE2 system.
And what's all included in that kit?
In the kit, we're including our PMX2 source unit, the dash kit and wiring harness for it, as well as the front lower pods and speakers.
All right, and obviously we want to get started with this. What's the first thing we need to do?
The first thing we're going to do is remove the hood to allow us access to the wiring in the back of the pocket.
All right, well, let's get going. All right guys, so now as you can see, we've removed the roof and the doors from this vehicle primarily for video clarity to give you guys a better view of what we're doing. In your installation, you're not necessarily going to have to do this unless you feel like you want a little more room to work. So,
now I'm going to begin by removing the hood from the front of the vehicle using my 4mm Allen driver, removing these two screws up top.
Now that we've got the hood removed, we can go ahead and move to prepping the pocket. All right guys, so the first step in prepping the pocket is we need to drill an access hole in the back of it for wiring. To do this, we're going to take a 2-inch hole saw and a cordless drill and drill a hole through the front of the pocket.
Now I'm going to drill this hole in the bottom lower right corner of the pocket. Now before I do this, I want to make sure that there's nothing in the way on the other side. Now as you can see, the reservoir is there, so if you feel a little uncomfortable before you drill, remove that and then drill your hole.
All right, so now that we have the hole made, we can go ahead and install our wiring grommet from the back side of the pocket. To do this, simply reach in, put it in the hole, and snap it in.
Now that we have the grommet in place, we can move on to drilling the 4 holes necessary to mount the dash kit. We've included a drill guide to do this. Simply take the drill guide, put it on the dash, mark the holes, and then drill them using a 3/16 drill bit.
All right guys, so now we're ready to prep the dash kit to receive the radio. So what's the first thing we need to do, Brad?
Well, the first thing we're going to need to do is locate our main dash piece and the PMX2 carrier. Now before even adding that, if you want to add 2 switches, we provided locations for that on the back, and this will be the time to do it. If not, go ahead and take your PMX2 carrier, align it on the back, and install the 4 screws we've included.
Now to install the screws, you're going to need a 3mm Allen driver.
With those 4 tight, we can take our PMX2, insert it through the back, and install 4 more screws.
Once you've got the PMX2 radio attached, we're ready to move on to the next step. All right, so now that we have the radio installed in the dash kit, we're ready to go ahead and install our wiring harness. We're going to take the large white plug and pass it through the grommet in the hole that we drilled earlier in the back of the pocket. Now also incorporated in the harness are the power and ground connections. Now these connections are going to be made at your cigarette lighter harness, which you'll find below the pocket in the dash area. So you're going to need to find that plug, unplug it, connect the T-harness to be able to make those final power connections.
Now that we have the harness in the pocket, I can take my PMX2 connect the harness and install the dash kit. Now you want to be careful to make sure the 4 studs on the back of the dash kit line up with the 4 holes that you drilled earlier. If for whatever reason one of your holes is off a little bit, you may have to step it up to the next size drill bit to make sure it fits through.
Once the dash kit is installed, we're ready to go ahead and secure it to the vehicle using the supplied nuts and a 7mm nut driver.
Now as you can see, it is pretty tight in there and you may lose one of the nuts by accident. But don't worry, in the PMX2 box will be 4 more nuts that we include for installation of the PMX2 itself.
Alright, so now that we have the radio mounted and the electrical connections are made, we're ready to move on to the next step of the installation process, mounting our lower speaker pods. So Brad, what's the first thing we need to do to get that done?
The first thing we're going to need to do is remove the inner fender wells to gain access to one of the mounting points and where we're going to run our wires.
Okay, well let's get started. Now that our inner fender is out of the way, we can go ahead and remove these 2 bolts from the inside of the vehicle. These bolts are later going to be used for mounting the speaker pod.
Now with the bolts removed, we can go ahead and remove the clips that they were just screwed into. I'm going to use a pick tool, and if you don't happen to have one of these, you could use a small flat blade screwdriver.
Alright, with the clips removed, we're ready to go ahead and mark the access hole for the speaker wire as well as the additional mounting hole that we need to drill in the inside of the vehicle. We're going to temporarily hold it in place with the bolts that we just removed by inserting them from the outside of the fender well and seating them in the threaded inserts on the speaker pod.
With our 2 bolts fairly snug, I can now move to the inside of the vehicle and mark the holes. With the 2 holes marked from the inside of the vehicle, I'm going to go ahead and remove the pod and then drill the holes. With the pod now out of the way, we can go ahead and drill our 2 holes. For the smaller hole, we're going to use a 5/16 drill bit, and for the larger hole, we'll use a 1/2 inch.
Alright, so before we can install the pods into the vehicle, we have to do a little prep work. So Brad, what all do we need to do to get these in the car?
Okay, as you can see in our pod, we have 2 sets of holes. One is for the prime speaker and one is for the punch. Now in this situation, we're doing the prime speakers, so we're going to go ahead and drill out the blind holes that we included here, the 2 top holes and the 2 most bottom holes. Now if you're not sure which ones you need to drill out, just grab your speaker, stick it in a hole, line it up, and then you'll know which ones you need to drill out.
Okay, and what are we using to drill out the holes?
We're going to use our 1/8 inch drill bit to pre-drill those.
Okay, well let's go ahead. Alright, so now with the holes pre-drilled, we're ready to take the pods over to the vehicle and get them installed. Alright, so now that the pod is installed, we're ready to go ahead and route the speaker wire. First, we're going to take the harness plug, route it underneath the front cowling, over to the center compartment area where the radio harness is located. Next, we're going to take the two speaker connectors and pass those through the opening into the pod that we drilled previously. Now at this point, we're ready to move around to the other side and install the connectors to the speaker and install the speaker into the pod. Prior to installing the speaker into the pod for the last time, we want to make sure that we seal up the hole with the sealing tape. Alright, so now that we have this speaker and pod installed, we're ready to move over to the other side and repeat the process with the other pod.
Now that we have both front speaker pods installed, we're ready to go ahead and make our connections at the radio. Now as you can see, we have some dust boots on the connectors that you'll have to remove. So once you remove them, plug in your speaker wires, then you're able to move on and test the system before buttoning up the vehicle.
Alright, so now that we've checked the radio out, made sure everything's working, we're ready to clean up the wires with some zip ties.
Now once we get a couple zip ties on there, we'll go ahead and reassemble the hood and inner fender wells and get it back on the road.
Alright guys, so that completes the installation. As you can see, it was pretty straightforward with a little bit of your time. So Brad, anything you'd like to add before we go?
Remember, if you have any questions before, during, or after the installation, give our tech team a call. They'll be more than happy to help you out.
Alright, well that does it for us. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you again in a future video.